With Morgoth pressing his attack upon the north of Beleriand, Barahir, chieftain of the House of Beor, refused to leave their homeland of Ladros, sending his wife to lead the women and children away, while the warriors remained to defend their realm. Though soundly defeated, Barahir survived along with 12 companions, who went on to live as outlaws in the wilderness, attacking Morgoth's forces whenever possible. Unfortunately, they were soon betrayed by Gorlim the Unhappy, resulting in the death of all of the companions, save for Barahir's son, Beren, who was off on an errand at the time of the massacre. With his father and friends gone, Beren made his way south into Doriath, where he encountered Luthien Tinuviel, daughter of King Thingol and Queen Melian the Maya, believed to have been the most beautiful elven maiden to ever exist. Beren and Luthien fell madly in love, and so the son of Barahir was eventually summoned before the royal court of Doriath, where he introduced himself as chieftain of the House of Beor, presenting the Ring of Felegond to demonstrate the friendship his father had earned from a king of the Noldor elves. And while many were impressed, Thingol was offended by the idea that his precious daughter would marry a mortal human, and therefore devised an impossible task that he demanded as bride price. Before the entire court, the king decreed that Beren must retrieve a Silmaril jewel from the Iron Crown of Morgoth and return it to Doriath in order to be deemed worthy of marriage to Luthien. But Beren was not fazed by the demand, replying coolly, "For little price do elven kings sell their daughters, for gems and things made by craft. But if this be your will, Thingol, I will perform it." Afterwards, Queen Melian warned her husband that becoming involved with the Silmarils would doom them, as the sons of Feanor had long ago vowed to retrieve all three at any cost, and would never allow Thingol to have one in his possession. Nevertheless, the challenge was issued, and so Beren traveled west to Nargothrond, where he met with King Finrod Felegond, who recognized him as an ally and did not need the ring for verification. Finrod, bound by the oath given to Barahir, put his crown aside and agreed to help Beren in his mission. However, as they traveled towards Angband, Sauron became alerted to their presence and engaged in a wondrous battle with Finrod, where they each used magic to sing songs of power, clashing in a piercing and treacherous sway of lethal force. Unfortunately, Finrod was ultimately defeated, leading to their imprisonment in a dark dungeon, where the only thing they sometimes saw were the yellow eyes of a werewolf coming to devour one of the prisoners. Sauron believed this would encourage them to reveal the purpose of their journey, but none of the companions betrayed their king. When only Finrod and Beren were left, the werewolf again came, but this time the Elven King summoned the last of his strength and burst forth, breaking his chains to slay the beast with his bare hands. Yet he suffered fatal wounds in the struggle, and so said a final goodbye to his friend and ally before passing away. Far from the Shadowlands of Morgoth, Luthien felt the terrible pain of her beloved Beren, and left Doriath all alone to seek him out, though she soon encountered Huan the Wolfhound of Valinor, who became her companion. Traveling together to Tolin Gaurhoth, Huan defeated Draugluin, Lord of Werewolves, before facing off against Sauron directly, who took the form of a werewolf and snake, before realizing he was defeated, and became a bat to fly away. Luthien then found Beren in a dark prison, and the two were at last reunited, burying Finrod before departing. Continuing together on the quest for the Silmaril, they overcame many hardships such as a hostile encounter with Celegorm and Curufin, two of the sons of Feanor, but eventually reached the fortress of Angband and snuck into Morgoth's lair. Entranced by Luthien's magic, the Dark Lord was put to sleep, allowing Beren to successfully cut a Silmaril from his iron crown. Elated by his success, he then attempted to take a second Silmaril, but the blade broke, causing a shard of steel to cut Morgoth's cheek, stirring him awake. As they ran for their lives, they were confronted by the werewolf Karkaroth, and so Beren pulled out the Silmaril, hoping its brilliant light would scare it away, only for the creature to bite off his hand, swallowing the jewel and going mad as it burned him from inside. Karkaroth then went on a rampage through the forest, while Beren and Luthien were saved by the Eagles, who learned of their situation from Huan the Hound. Although Beren initially failed to recover the Silmaril, Thingol saw his value and deemed him worthy of marrying his daughter. Now accepted into the family, the king organized a great hunt to slay the beast Karkaroth, only for the creature to target them in return, attacking Thingol. However, Beren saw the beast approaching and threw himself between them, suffering a fatal wound before Huan the Hound charged forth and killed the werewolf. Yet the Hound also suffered severe injuries, using the last of his strength to walk over to Beren and lay by his side before dying. One of Thingol's men then cut open the werewolf and removed the Silmaril to place it in Beren's hand as he died, so he might fulfill his vow and present the jewel to the king. Arriving in the halls of Mandos, Beren's spirit refused to depart for the human afterlife, without saying a final goodbye to the woman he loved, and similarly, without him in her life, Luthien gave into despair and soon followed him into the grave. She too then arrived in the halls of Mandos, where she sang a beautiful song of such sorrow she caught the attention of the Valar, who consulted with Eru the creator and decided to present her with a choice. Either Luthien could continue on like other elves, with her fate tied to the world, or else she could be reborn alongside Beren in Middle-earth, destined to live a mortal life and share in the fate of men. Rejecting the gift of immortality, she spent the rest of her life with Beren in Tol Galen of Osiriand, where they had a son named Dior, who was named heir to his grandfather King Thingol. For thousands of years, the tale of Beren and Luthien inspired and enthralled the peoples of Middle-earth as a shining example of a love so strong none could stand between them. Further, it was the first known marriage between a human and elf, creating a bloodline that would endure until the end of the world. In the lands of Dor-lómin, where the House of Hador lived in peace next to the Noldor elves under High King Fingon, the brothers Húrin and Huor were born to the tribe chieftain Galdor the Tall. In their youth, they were sent to be fostered with their mother's people in the forest of Brethil, where they joined a war party to battle the orcs encroaching on their lands. Yet they were soon cut off from their allies and pushed back to the river Sirion, only able to survive because of the intervention of the Vala Ulmo, who sent a mist to cover their escape. The eagles then arrived and carried them to Gondolin, where King Turgon welcomed them, and after swearing oaths to keep the city's location secret, were returned to Dor-lómin. Sometime later, their homeland fell under attack by the armies of Morgoth, leading to the death of Lord Galdor, leaving Húrin as the new lord of the territory. Marrying Morwin, Húrin fathered a son Túrin and daughter Urwin, though the girl died of a plague caused by the evil breath, a foul wind sent by Morgoth, which was only the beginning of the misery the Dark One would inflict upon this family. Huor, however, was spared many of his brother's hardships, fathering Tuor, a great warrior who went on to marry an elf maiden and father a line of half-elven heroes, which included such names of legend as Eärendil the Mariner, Elrond of Rivendell, and Elros of Númenor. Yet while Huor's line would thrive for thousands of years to come, the children of Húrin were fated for tragedy. With Morgoth now in control of the north, Maedhros, eldest son of Feanor, set out to unify the remaining realms of elves, humans, and dwarves to defeat this threat and reclaim their lands. And so began the Nirnaeth Arnoediad in the year 472 of the First Age, seeing the union of Maedhros divided into two hosts, with the sons of Feanor in the east, alongside the human tribes of Bor and Ulfang called Easterlings, and the dwarves of Nogrod and Belegost, while High King Fingon led their western army, comprised of the Noldor elves of Hithlum, the Sindar elves of the Falas, the men of House Hador from Dor-lómin, and the men of House Haladin from the forest of Brethil. After Finrod's death, his sibling Orodreth became king of Nargothrond, yet he refused to join the union due to his hatred for two of the sons of Feanor, Celegorm and Curufin, who had conspired against his elder brother. Nevertheless, a small company of elven warriors disagreed with this decision and followed Prince Gwyndor to join the Western Army. Doriath also refused to take part in the offensive being planned, as Thingol was in possession of a Silmaril jewel, making him an enemy of the sons of Feanor, and so only the adventurers Mablung and Beleg departed the realm to join up with Fingon's forces. The plan for battle called for those following Maedhros in the east to march directly into Anfauglith, expecting the Dark Lord to release his armies so that the western host might crush them from the other side. However, Morgoth's spies informed him of their intentions, allowing him to prepare his forces and concoct a plan of his own. First, he sent a great army of orcs, trolls, dragons, balrogs, and other dark creatures to waylay the eastern army and prevent them from arriving on time, while a smaller army of orcs was sent directly into Anfauglith to challenge Fingon into abandoning his defensive position and charging forward. However, the High King did not take the bait, and was soon reinforced by the late arrival of 10,000 warriors under Turgon of Gondolin. Although the original plan was in shambles, Fingon felt they could still achieve victory, and so continued to keep their full strength hidden. And so the orcs brought out an old prisoner they'd held since the Dagor Bragollach, named Gelmir, the brother of Gwyndor, who led the men from Nargothrond. Gelmir was then slowly dismembered for all to see, causing his brother to go mad with rage, breaking ranks and charging forward alongside his men, Fingon, seeing their lines starting to break, authorized a full attack, with Gwyndor at the forefront, leading a slaughter so devastating, the orc army was pushed all the way back into Angband. But this was precisely what the Dark Lord wanted, and so finally unleashed his massive orc army upon them. Meanwhile, the Union forces in the east were defeated after the human tribe of Ulfang betrayed them partway through the battle, making a separate deal with the Dark Lord to be given control of Hithlum. Though utterly vanquished, some were able to escape slaughter due to the courage of their dwarven allies, who proved better able to withstand dragonfire, holding the line while elves and humans retreated. After their victory in the east, Morgoth's armies joined the fighting at Angband, where Fingon's forces were already in retreat. Overwhelmed by the onslaught of enemies, many perished in the fighting, including High King Fingon, who fell to Gothmog, Lord of Balrogs. Upon seeing the death of the king, the men of Dorlomin charged forward and sacrificed themselves to allow Turgon and the elves of Gondolin to escape, resulting in the death of Huor and capture of Húrin. Love audiobooks? Then be sure to check out Audible, where they have the world's largest collection available. Simply sign up through the link in the description box below and get 2 free audiobooks to start out. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Fred Heartless, Knight of Iron and Ice, Justo Sparrowhawk, Midori Senin, and Sir Dayron of House Ashford. If you'd like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and click on the links to see more.